Hey bookcrows, I'm Beryl. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined by my co-host Thyme. Today, we will be discussing Of Earthly Delights by Goldy Moldavsky. I think I pronounced that correctly. Moldavsky, Moldavsky.
It sounds correct, based on my knowledge of Eastern European names.
Yeah. I feel like you would know more on that one than me.
Yes.
But before we get into it, Thyme, what book have you been currently reading, and what books have you picked up recently?
I am currently reading Sword Crossed. I don't have the book in front of me, so I have no idea what the actual author's name is. And I have picked up a huge stack of books. Because when do I not? A lot of history books. A Song of the Currents. Children of Blood and Bone. And the Star Wars prequel trilogy.
Ooh, nice.
What book did you buy recently? Because I know you've probably bought more books.
Actually, the last time I bought books was when we went to Pals.
Oh, you have shown restraint!
Yes, well, I'm moving soon, so I already have one suitcase filled with books. I don't need a second.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
don't lie to yourself.
I have to lie to myself. I have to lie to myself to make it work. But I remember we bought... You bought a lot more books than me in that trip. 3 books, and one of them I'm really excited for is A Treasury of Swans, I believe the name is. Sapphic, Gothic, Swan Lake retellings. I'm a sucker for retellings and Gothic stuff, so...
And it's Swan Lake. How can you not?
How can I not? I know. I'm gonna just put on some Tchaikovsky in the background.
I mean, Gothic Swan Lake, I feel like, very much captures the essence, especially, what's that one movie where... I think it's Black Swan or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the only other one I can think of where it's like, yes, Swan Lake Love is the Barbie one.
That was a good one. The other one that I can think of is The Swan Princess.
I have never seen that. Anyway, back on track. I apologize to anyone who decided this was a good idea to listen to. We are ADHD squirrels.
We love books. Honestly, we just love entertainment media, books, movies, music, the works.
Who doesn't love the humanities?
Yeah, we're here to talk about books. Maybe we'll talk about movies, music, and otherwise sometime down the line. But for now, it's books.
We are here to ramble in your ears, and today Beryl is hosting.
Yeah, that's me. So, I recently read Of Earthly Delights by Goldy Moldavsky. The clap is in between the names because I had to remember how to pronounce the last name. Now, this was an interesting, good Gothic psychological horror book. We do plan on talking about any book that we read, any genre, but we're starting with this one, Gothic psychological horror.
Minus the, super serious books.
Yeah, minus the super serious books. We can save those for another thing.
Maybe we'll do a side project where it's History 101.
History 101. Let's talk about what we read in a history book and evaluate the history book.
What is Thyme's special interest today?
What is Thyme's special interest today? Do you want me to use gendered pronouns for you in this one?
I don't care.
Okay. What is she, has she gone back to Anne Frank, or has she moved on to ancient Aztec civilizations and gods?
I mean, I don't have any books on ancient Aztec civilizations, so we could do that.
I'm down.
I mean, I have the one about Easter Island, so we could do that one.
Ooh. And then I can read a retelling of an ancient Aztec myth the next week.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Explain how wrong it is. I mean, to be fair, I could reread Percy Jackson.
Ooh, let's put that in the mini-series list. Percy Jackson.
Yeah, that's a throwback. I mean, we do have an entire mini-series planned for Court of Thorns and Roses, so I will remind myself of the Irish mythology that will inevitably bastardize.
Yes, while also talking mad shit about the Irish within the book.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We will not be on our main series. We will not be talking about major serialized stories. That's Harry Potter, A Court of Thorns and Roses, Hunger Games, Percy Jackson. But what we will do is, as time goes on and we reread those books or read them for the first time in some cases, make mini-series where we break down, I think it's what was the plan? An episode per book in the series?
Yeah. I think that'd be the best case. We could maybe put 2 together for small ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first Harry Potter book and the second one. They're pretty little.
Yeah.
They're pretty little. Like A Court of Thorns and Roses, they're smallish books, but they're dense.
Yeah.
We have a lot to say.
Yeah. And then like the Hunger Games, there's a lot going on in those. Like, I feel like we could do 2 episodes per Hunger Games book, honestly.
Yeah, but like if we're talking Twilight, I feel like you could maybe put that into 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read the books. Ever.
I haven't either. My brother's read the entire thing, but back in middle school because he was trying to impress a girl. In terms of books that have problematic authors but are still culturally relevant, i.e. Harry Potter and A Court of Thorns and Roses, we are looking for used copies of the books that we don't already have so that we do not support said authors.
Because we should never burn books. But we shouldn't support the authors who make them.
Yeah.
By buying new ones.
Exactly. And with that notable, those episodes, again, specifically of authors that have problematic behavior, it might take us a little longer to get to them. But we can easily start that out with Hunger Games, Percy Jackson, Cruel Prince, Twisted Tales.
Yes. And there will be the disclaimer of the author within said episode.
Yes.
Because we do not support said authors and their opinions on specific things.
Yes.
At all.
And we know that a lot of authors that we pick up that we will talk about, we might not know their full set of politics. And we understand that we can go back and redact anything that needs to be redacted or add anything of that sort.
We are very open to hearing if someone is a bad person.
Yes.
And why.
This podcast is a pro-LGBT, very left-wing...
Pro-trans.
Yeah. Disability-friendly and I don't even know the words. I just had a class about disability justice to help teach us all these words. Can't remember it.
That being said, support your trans homies in these times.
Yep.
Support all of the nonprofits that you can.
Mm-hmm. All of the good nonprofits. There are bad ones.
Yeah, all the good ones.
Yeah.
We're looking at you, Autism Speaks.
Yes.
Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. The current model that we are working with is that every week we will switch off who reads the book and we'll talk about the book that they have recently read. This is just personal books that we have read. So this week it will be me, Beryl. Next week it will be Thyme speaking.
And these are our opinions. So if you do not have the same opinion, that is perfectly valid.
Absolutely. We are just 2 nerds nerding out and having a good time.
Yes, we see shiny book, we grab shiny book.
Absolutely. And in the case of our fellow book crows, which is all of you, the wonderful audience, we hope that you are also having a good time and enjoying your books, TV shows, movies, music, whatever you enjoy.
Sorry, I just realized there was another Babylon 5 book right down here, and I was like, which one is that?
Oh.
I really need to organize my bookshelves.
Yes, you do. We are struggling to keep on track. We're having a good time. So, I'm going to start with my personal summary that I wrote of this book. Once again, of Earthly Delights by Goldy Moldavsky. Spoiler alert, we are talking about the book as a whole. My summaries will include spoilers within the book. So if you want to pick up this book prior to listening to me talk about it, now is your time to skip to the end or something. Regardless, I'm ready to go. Are you ready, Thyme?
Yes.
So, our main character, Rose, just moved to a new town at the beginning of summer. Running into the love of her life, Hart, spelled H-A-R-T, Hargrove. He's kind, handsome, and incredibly rich. As her whirlwind summer romance evolves, we are also acquainted with her best friend, Lowell, and Hart's mentally unwell sister, Heather, who seems to hate Rose for no reason. The Hargroves own a beautiful estate of over 10 acres of gardens on it, holding extravagant parties every 3 months. As Rose gets closer to Hart, it becomes incredibly obvious that the garden is magical. Rose discovers that the center of the hedge maze has a garden that grants wishes, causing a fight between her and Hart that leaves her so rattled she crashes her car and dies at the book's halfway point. The face you just made. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No!
I said it was gothic psychological horror, and we're just getting to the gothic part.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is all like roses, flowers,
Death. Death. Continuing on. We then switch to Hart's point of view, in which he's determined to use the Wish Garden to get Rose back, fully knowing the garden has rules to prevent this. The second half is intercut with a lot of flashbacks explaining how the garden works, and how that's changed all of the Hargroves, more so for the worse than anything else. This is intercut with flashes of what look like the future Rose and Hart were meant to have together. And these intercuts are throughout the entire book, not the second half. Only for Heather to reveal that Hart has locked them in a time loop. He tries to keep Rose from dying, and she's forced to remember it all. Heather is forced to remember it all, not Rose. Due to the rules of the garden, Hart realizes that he's condemned Rose to dying in every timeline, and her death will continue to happen earlier and earlier each time. He agrees with Heather to never use the garden again, but then goes back on his word, and as Heather attempts to burn the garden, Hart makes his wish just in time. The book then ends on the first page that it started with, from Rose's perspective repeating itself. You have a face.
It's a face that says men.
Yes. Yes.
It's such a man thing to do.
It is. And all of the characters feel really great. Notably, I mentioned Rose's best friend, Lowell, Lowell. I've heard it pronounced both Lowell and Lau. I mentioned him at the beginning, and I didn't mention him at the end. He's important because he is the catalyst for changing Heather's character, and also the fact that he is not friends with Rose in any other timeline. Just the timeline that we are examining as the audience. Overall, I gave it a 3.8 rating. From what I can tell from the entire story, the major theme is the dangers of obsessive love, which feels pretty obvious. But it's not just obvious with Hart, also obvious with how Rose is and Heather is, and Lowell is. Lowell becomes obsessed with loving himself and changing himself using the garden. Basically used the garden to give himself plastic surgery until the rules of the garden hit him hard and he started falling apart and becoming a zombie. Functionally a zombie. Nobody could recognize him in his last moments.
I mean, I understand the desperation and the grief that comes with losing a loved one. I can't imagine losing my partner. I would be absolutely devastated. So I kind of understand the aspect of trying to gain them back any way you can.
Yep.
But it comes to a point of, if you're harming others by your behavior, you're just a dick.
Yeah. The rules of the garden had some very interesting rules, and I can't fully remember them because it has been 3 weeks since I read the book. But the reason he knows that he can't bring back the dead with the garden, which is why he's gone into his own time loop with Rose. But the reason he met Rose in the first place was that he couldn't handle his mother's death. His mother died because she was also using the garden obsessively to try and win the love of her husband. Hargrove Sr., the man of the house, was full of infidelity in their marriage. And so their mother, who is, of course, dead throughout the entire book, but we see her in flashbacks, she uses the garden to make him look at her, to make her shine more so that he'll see her and stay the night with her. And she eventually dies because the rules of the garden say that there has to be a price to everything.
That makes sense.
The price is equivalent to the level that you asked of the wish. So, little baby Hart asked for a bag of candy, and then after eating the bag of candy, he lost all his teeth.
Ah!
Yeah. Gothic psychological horror. So he knew this. By the point that he is a teenager, he understands the rules of the garden. Which, by the way, trigger warning with this book, there is a dog death. And that's how he learns the rules very harshly as a kid. But it does do a good job of avoiding showing the dog dead on the page. You can just skim the one paragraph where it kind of tries to lightly describe it. So he can't handle his mother's death in the first place and goes to the garden and wishes for love. And the next day he walks in and sees the girl of his dreams and they get married and they're having a good time and then she dies. Because what's the opposite of love? Grief is what Heather says to Hart in the book.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. I mean, most people assume the opposite of love is hate,
Mm-hmm.
but, most people don't really appreciate love until they've lost it.
Yeah.
And then they're grieving it, so that makes a lot more sense, having it be grief.
I've heard the idea that the opposite of love is indifference, but for this case, like, I feel like there's different types of love.
Yeah.
And for the case of, like, family and romantic love, grief feels more correct.
Yeah. I think that's why part of the big thing that's happening with books a lot now is people want the enemies to lovers aspect. You can't exactly have enemies to lovers if they fully hate each other.
Yeah, I've seen it done.
Let's be honest here. Most people just absolutely hate an aspect. A lot of times they see themselves in the person, or they hate the fact that they have certain feelings, that sort of thing. I mean, you could probably have the hate all the way to love thing, but it'd be a lot harder to achieve.
And it definitely takes more than one book to achieve it, which is why I like The Cruel Prince. We'll get to that in a mini-series. Any thoughts about what you've heard so far?
Not really. I was very confused at the beginning because I'm like, okay, this is very flowery. Very, for a second, I thought you were going to tell me that he fell in love with the sister, or I think the sister was Heather.
Yeah.
I was like, is that what's gonna happen?
No. Though Heather is my favorite character. She's such a well-done character. Like, she discovers the power herself when she asks for a puppy as a kid. Yeah, as I mentioned, the dog dies. Because the garden will attack anybody it deems as a threat that tries to hurt it. And dogs digging up roots counts as a threat, apparently.
It kind of reminds me a bit of Pet Sematary.
A little. It does give that vibe. But Heather went mad, basically, as a kid by doing too many wishes. She wished for brilliant eyes of an unnatural color and got these beautiful blue eyes with golden speckles in them, and kept going farther and farther until she was basically drunk on wishes.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the aspect of be careful what you wish for.
Yes, absolutely. And I think talking about Heather is a great way of talking about the book as a whole, because Heather is the most interesting character. From the get-go, there's two sets of tension that is building, that is kind of giving you this idea that this is not a normal story. The first one is the way that Heather and Hart act in the first place. Heather instantaneously just is like, why are you back here? You're a dead girl. 2 Rose. Because Heather's experienced her best friend dying 4 times now. Rose is her best friend, and seeing her brother's heartbreak and not telling anybody that she's done this over and over again. And then, of course, Hart is obviously, in his 50s by the time we get to this. Is it his 50s? He's 17 when he makes the wish. She first dies in their early 30s, and then it gets shorter and shorter. So he's in his 40s now, trying to get his teenage sweetheart to love him again.
That's a bit of a age gap.
Yeah, it was appropriate when they met each other. And notably, one of the rules of the garden is that it can't change a person. You can do things like mind control them for a short period of time, but not forever. You can do things like make somebody look at you, but you can't change a person.
Interesting.
And you can't force them to do something necessarily against their will. You can say they will listen to everything I say for the next 5 minutes. That is something you can do. But you can't, make them do something else, you know?
So, does everyone that experienced her dying and stuff like that, does everyone remember?
No.
Or is Heather... Okay.
Just Heather and Hart. Hart because he's making the wish. Heather because this is fun. When their mother died, Heather was the one who walked in and found their dead mother. And in her grief of being unable to handle their mother dying and seeing her mother dead, goes to the garden and makes a wish to forget finding her mother's dead body. The garden then takes away all of her memories of her mother. Yeah. Garden's fucked up. Garden's a little bitch. But later, in an attempt to try and force the wish to reverse itself, which the garden is very clear, you can't reverse a wish. In order to get the wish to reverse itself, she asks to remember everything. Which is why when time reverses itself, she can remember It's also why she's the one able to tell Hart how he's fucking up.
Ah, that's a really good way of having that be a plot line.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'd be like, well, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Like, the entire time I was reading the book, I was genuinely most interested in Heather as a character. Rose was definitely a tiny bit flat, but, like, all of the teenagers throughout the entire series, like, are more flat than Heather and Hart, whereas the adults in general have more dimension to them, like, every adult. Rose's father, the men that she's taking care of in the retirement home, because she's got a part-time job there to pay for a car. And, like, even the Hargrove parents, they are more fleshed out. And it's just kind of, like, showing the difference between how a teenager thinks and how an adult thinks. There's something interesting. One of those old people that I mentioned that Rose was taking care of, she goes to him to ask him about a lot of the town's history and the Hargroves. And he's very skeptical of the Hargroves and all of that, which results in a very interesting... It says in the book, Jewish legend. I think I tried to fact check it, and I don't see anything in my notes saying that it was a wrong legend. But it's about a legend of the Orchard of Wisdom, in which 4 people go into the orchard. The first one died, the second one lost their faith, the third one went mad, and the fourth one remained the same.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of different types of Jewish legends and things like that. It's just not something that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one.
There is an interesting Jewish legend that you do know. And it's the one that The Corpse Bride is based off of.
Ah! Did not know that.
Yeah, Tim Burton's been given a lot of shit over that situation because he never talks about the fact that it is pretty it's deadly similar to a Jewish legend. You don't even have to read the Jewish legend if you've seen the movie.
Interesting. To be fair, there is a lot of things that are based off of different legends and things that are extremely similar. I mean, to be fair, look at Disney movies. They're pretty beat for beat other than the ending.
Yeah. Something I noticed in the story was that there were 2 sets of 4 that seemed to follow this Jewish legend. The first one is the 4 quote-unquote teenagers, because we're going to include Hart and Heather in this, and obviously, yeah. By the way, they're twins, so they're going to be the same age in all of these timelines. And the second one is the 4 Hargroves. So for the Hargroves, since this is an obvious, easier one, the mom died, obviously. I believe the father is the one that lost his faith, because he has an entire conversation with Hart about giving up the Wish Garden, and how, like, it's not worth it. Which does result in this interesting thing where Hart was like, you never really loved Mom because you never used the Wish Garden to try and bring her back. And the father's response was, why do you think I didn't? What makes you think that I didn't try?
What a weird way to be like, oh, you never loved your partner because you never tried to bring them back from the dead. Like, or, hello?
Yeah.
Or I respected them enough to know that that's not something they would have wanted.
Yeah, dude, like, obsessive love is killer.
Yeah.
That's why I think the father's the one that lost his faith, because he doesn't use the garden at all anymore. And he even, like, doesn't go to the estate at all. He leaves the recharging of the garden's magical power to the kids, because the garden has to be recharged through regular festivities. That's why they have a party there every 3 months. Otherwise, the garden kills actual people. So that's why they do it.
Why do people live here?
Because the only people who know about the garden are the Hargroves.
Fucking move.
Yeah, and the Hargroves are like, we got riches by asking the garden to do things for us.
Move.
Just move. Yeah. Obviously, Heather's
Then again, the garden might find them.
The garden, the garden apparently works crazy wonders. So probably. Garden has apparently made business deals across the ocean for them. Obviously, Heather is the Hargrove that went mad, and Hart is the Hargrove that's remained the same. He uses the garden a little too much. He's filled with obsessive love, first for his mother, second for Rose, obviously. And then, once again, he decides he can't let Rose go, and he just makes the wish again. He even, like, convinces himself that with Heather lighting the garden on fire, just as he sends himself back into time, that she killed herself in that fire. And that would make her finally lose her memories of all of the rewinds. this man is off of his rocker, but he's still the same as he was at the beginning of the story.
That's fair. I mean, if someone's already mad as hell in the sense of, not being there in the head, are they really going to be able to go more mad?
Yeah. I enjoy this. And I also enjoy the fact that, like, Heather going mad, making her try to destroy the garden because she can tell her brother can't help himself anymore. And she, like, by the end of the story, Heather is no longer using the garden. She's going to still do the garden parties because the garden still needs to be sustained. But, like, she's changed. The only character who does not change is Hart, which is normally a bad thing. But that's kind of the point of the story.
Yeah. There's also, like, why not just wish for the garden to stop granting wishes that are bad?
That's a great question.
Or something like that. Like, I feel like you could have made a wish that would have made it so that it would be less harmful. I also feel like that's why the dad lost faith in it, because he realized that it twists everything. It's kind of like a genie that figures out a way to wriggle itself into giving you a bad wish.
Absolutely. It is a monkey's paw through and through.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, dude, I think you found the loophole that they've been trying to find this entire time. Like, all of the Hargroves are like, it is said that, like, a Hargrove has always tried to find a loophole, and the result is something horrible happens to them.
Or it'd be like, hey, I wish you'd stop murdering people.
Yeah. I wish you would stop murdering people. It's such a good request.
Please. I'll ask nicely. I'll give you some good fertilizer. Just stop killing people.
I instead of making this I plant a seed and you grant my wish in the wish garden, I plant a seed, fertilize you, and you stop murdering people. How about that?
Yeah. Leave it to me to bring logic into this, though.
I know.
How Twilight Sparkle of me.
Oh, it's just you. It's just time. Oh. Now, as for the other group of four that I noticed, there is, obviously, Rose is the one who died in the teenagers.
Yes.
I personally believe in this version, in this four, Heather is the one that lost her faith. Lowell went mad, and Hart remained the same, obviously. Heather losing her faith is my equivalent here of, like, at the end of the story, she vows to never use the garden again and believes the garden is evil. And that's why she actually, like, makes Hart agree to never use the garden again. And of course he fails. But Lowell going mad is because, like, he does the whole plastic surgery garden shenanigans until he goes, his personality changes, because that is the negative that he got from the garden, was that his personality would change. And then, like, he kept going back even then, so the garden made his body just rot away on him. So he went mad and tried to destroy the garden, and he died because of it.
I mean, you did say that the garden kills anything that tries to kill it. So, get wrecked. Does it try to kill Heather, or do you not find out since, he ends up going back in time?
So, Heather, when she tries to light the garden on fire, what she believes is that every time somebody has tried to harm the garden previously, they have tried to, like, take a blade to it, or pull out a bush, or something like that. To her credit, she's like, nobody has ever set it ablaze. All it takes is me putting gasoline on the garden and then lighting a torch. And it doesn't matter at that point, like, not even a torch, like lighting a match. And it doesn't matter at that point if the garden kills her or not. The match is lit and there's gasoline everywhere.
That is fair. That is actually a really good line of thinking.
And that's why she was ready to die doing this. And that's why Hart was like, she's just gonna die, and I'm gonna bring her back with Rose.
Sir?
Yeah.
Go to therapy.
Yeah.
Get help.
At what point in this thought process did you not think therapy was required?
They might not. They have a garden full of wishes. They probably don't have therapy. Psychology does not exist.
They're probably going to the garden and like, I want you to make me happy.
Hey, garden, take away my depression, please. Gives it a bundle of weed.
The garden specifically works by you have to plant the seed. So I guess in a bundle of weed, plant the weed. Now we got cannabis in the garden.
There we go.
Gotta smoke some weed. Would smoking the weed, count as harming it?
That's a good question. I would be that asshole that just planted, like, morning glories or mint in the garden, and then it would just take over.
The garden does know the difference between somebody taking care of it with shears and trying to hurt it with shears.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know how the garden... do they tell you how the garden started originally? Or does it just exist?
It just exists. The Hargroves found it, according to what they said. So the garden's been there for ages.
I would love a garden origin story for the like, my mind is thinking, how did this garden become sentient?
Like, I'm sure this takes place in America. So I'm sure that the concept is something the Native Americans knew better than to mess with.
Fair. To be fair. White people are stupid, and as a white person, I can say that.
Yes, absolutely.
We hear a noise, and we're like, oh, what's that? Everyone else is like, nope, I'm out. Fuck it. Get out. No. Close the curtains. Door locked. Alarm set. Gun loaded. No.
To that sentiment, this is a slight tangent. As another white person here, in my dorms last year at my university that I go to, dorming with 3 Latino women. And an alarm, like something that sounds like an evacuation alarm, we can hear it outside, but it's not like close enough for us to hear what it says. And we were all freaking out, like, what is it saying? So I'm the one that opened the front door to find out where it is and just walked into, like, we all knew that there were flash flood warnings throughout the entirety of that entire night. And I'm just like, if it's a flash flood warning, I need to know. The answer is it was the high school next door to the dorms, and their fire alarm was going off.
You know, wouldn't the university have some sort of alarm system inside the building?
There is an alarm system in the gardens outside the building.
But why isn't everyone in the building? That's stupid!
Well, the apartments it's a California university, so there's no hallways. Everything's outside.
Oh.
Yeah.
As someone who went to and lived in an actual dorm room, to be fair, my school also just texted us.
My school has emergency alerts set up, and they still don't use them.
Your university sucks.
Dude, I got a message from my university about a police thing, like campus has reopened, the police have left, and I'm like, I didn't get a message that campus had closed or that there were police. What do you mean?
Anyway, white people are stupid. Yeah. Don't trust a white person in an emergency, please.
To be fair, one of my roommates just was like, damn, you're on the zombie apocalypse team because I need somebody who's willing to go out and see what the danger is.
Yeah, I mean, I have too much anxiety to go in the face of danger. I'm the person who sends someone else. I'm like, you go. If you die, then I know I should stay here. But if you live...
I was in boat. If it was a flash flood, we would die anyways, so I need to know now.
Fair. At least you know how you die.
Yeah.
You can, like, text your family and be like, hey guys, sucks.
Yeah.
So, I have a big question.
Yes.
Some of the names in the book sound like they could be white people. How many people in these books are white people coded, and how many are people of color coded?
The book is almost entirely white people. The Hargroves are white people coded. Rose is white people coded. I think Lowell might be the only person who is kind of ambiguous, but no, they call his skin very pale because he doesn't go out much.
Could be like Irish, Welsh. I mean,
still white.
They got strange names. Is what I'm saying. Well, not strange names. They just have. Okay, if you're English or American, good luck pronouncing it. If you happen to know Irish or possibly Scots Gaelic, because they're not the same, but, you know, they're cousins, you might be able to pronounce it. Same with if you know Welsh, you might be able to.
Yeah, the Scottish one is the easiest one to deal with.
As someone who is learning Irish to be able to get more in tune with their ancestors, yes. Don't try to learn Welsh if you don't live in Wales.
I want to, though.
Good luck. There is literally, you can find the video online of how long the name of a city is, and it's definitely pronounced way different. I swear to God, the Irish, the Scots, and the Welsh looked at each other when England was invading and went, we're gonna fuck with these guys, right? And so they did.
Realizing that Welsh is probably closer to what English sounded like prior to the Anglo-Saxons coming and conquering the part of the Isle that would become England. Because it's called England because it sounds like the Anglos, the Anglo-Saxons, and then they pushed a lot of the original people away to what would be Wales, and obviously Scotland as well, but like at that point, the Pictish and the what would prior to Anglo-Saxons would be so different.
We need to do that. I need to put that in the list. When I went to Scotland, okay, I have a book on the history of the Picts.
Oh my god.
Because as someone whose family fled Scotland to go to Ireland because they were on the to be murdered list, and then came to America because they were probably again on the to be murdered list because of religious differences, I picked up that book and I'm like, yes, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to annoy all the Christians.
Do it.
But I have the makers of Scotland, the Picts, the Celts, and the history of Orkney.
Ooh, history of Orkney.
Orkney is dope.
It is.
Okay, that place is dope. Anyway, back to the book.
We're having a good time, though.
That's the point.
Yeah. That's the point. We're having fun. All right. We did skip a few of my notes, like the Hargrove struggling with the responsibility of power. Oh, there's a cut to a timeline in Rose's section that's supposed to be like foreshadowing to the timelines. Basically, we have a lot of cuts to the alternate timelines. Like, I don't know if I should call them flashbacks or not, because, like, yeah, they happen in the past, but also the future. Towards the end of the first half, when we're still at Rose's point of view, we get a cut to another timeline where Rose meets Lowell, and Lowell is like, yeah, I didn't know you much in high school, but you're Rose, right? Even though the book has been building up that they're best friends. And that's like one of the big foreshadowing things about the alternate timelines. And I personally have a theory that alternate timeline shenanigans is not the previous timelines, but a future timeline. Because in that specific one, it goes over that she is no longer with Hart, that something happened and they've broken up. So I personally think that one's a flash forward to the next time.
Interesting.
Because he's like, I'm sorry to hear about Hart. It's like, no context behind that past like this idea that they broke up, even though we know from Hart that they never broke up. In every timeline he's already existed in, their relationship ends when she dies.
I'm also curious if Heather does remember or not in a future timeline.
I'm so curious too.
Or if she's even there.
Yeah. The thing that Heather says is that going back in time to save a person will make them die earlier. He was thinking he was going to save both Heather and Rose this time, which might have been the key to saving Rose. Heather, does she remember? And if she does remember, how much of her life was cut short by him trying to save her?
Yeah.
You don't have, like you have to say what your words are, but, like, obviously the interpretation of what to punish you with comes by your inner thoughts, much like how magic actually works. So, like, in every timeline, he's thinking, like, he asked for love, so he gets whatever form of love, but it knows that he just wants to replace his mother. Don't tell, what is it, Sisyphus? Is it Sisyphus? No, not Sisyphus. Whatever Greek hero that was that fucked his mom.
I think Oedipus is the one you're thinking of?
Yeah, don't tell Oedipus. Though, saying don't tell Oedipus is kind of a bad one, because Oedipus doesn't know he fucks his mom.
It's kind of like Dalton and I were talking about how there's the story of Icarus, where everyone interprets it as, oh, he got too close and then he got burned. But everyone forgets about the fact that they were flying up high because they were trying not to drown because the sea was below them, and so the water could make their things go heavy. So it's actually about you have to be in the happy medium. And if you're doing something and do not actually have good intentions at heart, it's going to come through when you're in the actual thing that happens.
That's a good way of seeing it.
Thank you. You know, I've been told many times that I am an old soul. In actuality, no, I'm just autistic.
You know, same. The amount of times people have been like, I keep forgetting that you're like blah, blah, blah age. Because you act like such an old soul, which I was starting to hear that less and less as I approached 30.
I heard that as like a 10-year-old.
Oh, same. So let's talk about that ending, though.
Yes.
We've kind of been talking a bit about how, by the point we end, Hart is still obsessed. Nothing in theory changes. But I've also mentioned that, like, there is a hint that something does change with one of the alternate timeline cuts. He's still obsessed with Rose at the same point that he is at the beginning of the story, as seen with us going back to the literal first page. All that's really changed of him is he knows how he messed up, and of course makes the same mistake. I love non-perfect endings. Imperfect, non-perfect, something is not quite right. I love when endings are not perfect because it makes it feel real to me. Life's not perfect. I love a happy ending that has like a little bit of a twist where you're like, okay, not everything's great. And let's be honest, there's no such thing as a perfectly happy ending unless it is a romance novel and the entire goal was that they get married or fuck or whatever they're trying to do.
Because we all know that marriage is the ultimate thing that everyone wants in life.
Obviously. And then it's kids once you have that, right?
It can't just be like cats or something.
My babies are only my babies for now. Clearly I need more babies. And they have to be in the non-fur form next, right? I just love you looking back and forth between whatever is next to you and me for that. Like, endings that are just incredibly unhappy with no hope has to be, like, the right kind of horror. That is not for me. It just does not feel good to read endings that are hopeless. With some exceptions, obviously. Every once in a while, I get a hopeless ending that feels alright.
It has to be fitting. Like if Lord of the Rings ended with Frodo failing, I mean, he does fail in a way, you know? But if the ring never got destroyed, that would not be the right ending for that story. Because the entire point is that there's still hope, even though life is full of darkness. That's the entire point. But if the match girl ended with her being invited in and getting to eat all the yummy goodness, no. Like, the entire point is she dies. She dies.
Which is why bad endings are better for short stories.
Yeah, or like Turn of the Screw. Turn of the Screw has such a unreliable narrator, where if that actually ended in a way that didn't fit the unreliable narrator ending that batshit story had, oh my god.
It does come down to the story. It's very hard to make a good bad ending.
It's like how there's multiple versions of The Little Mermaid, you know? There's one where she dies, there's one where she lives. Who's to say which one is better? Do we appreciate the one where she dies? Yeah, it depends on the story.
The Little Mermaid is, like, directly written by Hans Christian Andersen. Like, he's one of the few fairy tale writers who actually wrote the fairy tales himself and not codifying them.
Brothers Grimm. Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so we do know the real ending. And the real ending involves her transforming into an air child after she dies. But nobody talks about that either.
And the fact that every time she walks, she is in horrid pain.
True. Or the fact that the prince calls her his pet.
And he totes marries someone else.
He's like, I love you, but as one would love a pet. And the girl that he marries is like, I love you as a sister to her.
Switching it to be as happy as it is, it's very much a going against the original story. But at the same time, it is very fitting for the rest of the Disney movie.
Absolutely. Which, context, I guess. Context is everything. In the original story, there is a glimmer of hope at the end. That's what makes it a really good, non-perfect, good ending. I would say this is a non-perfect, somewhere in between good and bad ending. It's not a happily ever after. It's also not a unhappily ever after. It's definitely like a middle ground.
Yeah, like I feel like there was probably a little bit of you that wanted him to get his comeuppance.
Yeah. It's a non-perfect ending. We have no idea if Heather keeps her memories, if Hart found the right loophole. It says here, saving 3 people instead of 1. He's also trying to save Lowell this time around. I guess he thought that, and I forgot that in the 3 weeks that between me reading it and me recording. This is why I take notes. My thoughts from 3 weeks ago, from literally an hour after I set the book down, where I said it is not a good, imperfect ending. It's not bad, because it's still in line with this story's themes of how dangerous obsessive love is. But Hart isn't the most interesting character, and it was a little too open-ended. Those are my thoughts from 3 weeks ago, and I kind of feel that. I cared more about Heather at the end than Hart.
I feel like that's kind of the point, though, because someone who their entire life is wrapped so much around this one thing is gonna be boring as fuck. I feel like part of what makes someone so interesting is their ability to bounce between things. Maybe that's why people with ADHD are so much fun to be around, because one minute you're doing this, the next minute you're doing that. I don't know. It's kind of like cats. Cats, you're never not entertained by a cat. Unless they're asleep.
Nah, I'm entertained by Tuesday stretching right now in her sleep.
Fair. But someone where their entire personality is one thing, there's only so much of that you can take.
Absolutely. And like, Heather's interesting in the sense of not only is she going back in time, but she had recovered a lot of her madness in the first timeline and was getting a boyfriend and learning Italian, and then you can see that coming back around later in the story. She'd learn Italian in the second timeline because she figured she would just end up with her boyfriend again, which of course didn't work out. And now she's a teenager again and knows Italian on top of that for no reason other than she knows Italian.
She sounds very sympathetic. Like, you feel for her because you know what she's going through is so traumatic.
Yes. And to some degree, we kind of feel for Hart in that way, too. Like, he's been traumatized, but he's in control of his own destiny. Heather had no control of going back in time over and over again.
Grief can make people irrational. It can turn you into someone else. And even if it's not like an obsessive love situation, it still can. But I think the difference is if someone has an obsessive personality and they have power at their fingertips to use, it's an atomic bomb waiting to happen. That's a stack of C4 next to an open fireplace.
That's a good way of putting it as well.
Yeah, it's also a really good way of allegory for people who should not have power and have power is not something to joke about. It's not something we should really encourage, I guess is the best way to put it. And so Heather being the only person who can do something about it and not being able to do something about it is very much like the rest of the world looking at something and going, I want to fix this, I want to stop this, but I can't because I don't have the power to do that.
Yeah, it makes sense with, like, in some way, Heather trying to destroy the garden is kind of like her resigning in that. Like, she's like, I could die from this. I probably will. She literally is standing in the flames as fire is burning. Like,
if you're falling off a cliff, you might as well try to fly. You've got nothing to lose.
Yeah. If it's something like a time loop situation, your only way of escaping would be death.
Yeah, exactly. I will say my one big thing. I hope this author never makes a sequel, because a sequel would ruin it. A sequel would ruin it.
Oh, same. It's an imperfect ending. It's a messy imperfect ending. It's not the best imperfect ending. It does not need a sequel. Let the author make a tweet online saying that my theory is right and that was a cut to the other one. And maybe make a tweet online saying the fate of Heather, please.
So, for you, what would make it the perfect ending?
If we're going with my theory, I just want to know how Heather ends up.
Mm-hmm.
The other option is knowing if Rose manages to get out of this time loop as well. That basically this death trap time loop for her. Those are the two things I want to know. Does Rose get out of the time loop? And does Heather survive and get better and have a better life? That's all I want. I didn't care that much for Lowell, mostly because he's kind of a jerk from the get-go. He's kind of the kid that doesn't get along with people because he's kind of weird. The weird kid allegations in the sense of it's a boy weird kid that's like not great around women or has toxic masculinity baked into his brain. And he's kind of that way from the get-go. It's just that once he gets a pretty face, he starts sliding more and more into the toxic masculinity mindset that he has to be a macho man.
Yeah, I mean, there probably is a reason why a lot of people who are considered to be conventionally masculinely attractive are jerks. I mean, there's a reason why gym bros are a thing. Not every person who goes to the gym is an a-hole. Like, There's a guy that I watch on YouTube. I don't know if we want to shout him out or not, but click, what's up? He's great. He goes to the gym. Man is buff as heck, but dude is not a jerk.
Exactly.
The man's living in Sweden with his mountain of plushies, just loving his life.
There's something to be said about pretty privilege at the same time, though.
Yeah, like, pretty privilege is a thing. There's a reason why a lot of women in the autistic community are not believed to have autism, and that is because they're conventionally attractive.
Mm-hmm. Even if you are a pretty person, you will still experience a lot of bullying as a kid if you are neurodivergent in some way.
Yeah. Well, let us confirm. Why did you give it a 3.5?
3.8.
3.8. Getting very specific.
Yes, I figured if I'm going to be reviewing books for a living now, I should be more accurate with my ratings. I give it a 3.8 because it's close to a 4-star read for me. I haven't quite solidified what my methodology is. A 5-star is something that like touched my soul and I felt great love for the story and made me feel a lot of things. And a 4 is like made me feel a lot of things, solid story and everything, but didn't touch my soul. And a 3 is decent story, had some mess ups in it. So you get the idea between the 3 and the 4. We're not going to talk about the 2s or 1s. But like, it was close to a really great story that wasn't touching my soul, but it had a few too many points for me to give it a solid 4. It was mostly the ending. The tension was done really well. Most of the characters were really good. I remember thinking about the rules of the garden for like hours the next day. Just what is it that he could have possibly done that would have saved the garden? You're the first person who came up with it. Ask it to stop killing. Like, I remember thinking a lot about that. There's a lot of good points. Anything that has a dog dying, I can't give like too high of a score. Generally, if I know there is a pet death, I will not consume the story whatsoever. I do find that Gothic fiction has a lot of pet death. But most Gothic fiction knows its audience and tries to avoid doing it too horribly.
I mean, Gothic horror and Gothic fiction is very different from how a lot of horror is nowadays with the slasher and the just murder everywhere. It's a lot more about suspense and unreliability.
It's a reminder that horror as a whole, it's a newer genre in the lexicon of genres, with the term coming out in like the early, not even the early 1800s. Like, horror is known as a film term, actually. Hi, film major here. I'm about to get my film degree. Horror as a term is very specifically, in the early days of film, the kind of Gothic genre stuff that started popping up. They didn't have a term for it because not all of it was Gothic. The main standpoint of Gothic fiction being the old ways trying to overtake and harm the new ways. There's more. I do plan to someday do a video essay about what makes Gothic fiction Gothic and what makes something not Gothic fiction, but that's an entire conversation for another day.
Honestly, I would be really interested in reading that because I theoretically do not understand what makes it Gothic, but I also understand that like some of the vibes that I've gotten from books where I've read that are the suspense horror, like when you think classic Gothic literature, a lot of times you're thinking things like Edgar Allan Poe, Count of Monte Cristo,
Dracula.
Things like that. Dracula, yes. That is a classic. That is worth reading.
It is. Also Carmilla. Shout out to my fellow lesbians.
Yes. That's what I think of when I think of Gothic. I think of suspense. There is some where I've read one recently where it definitely tried to be the Gothic vibes, but there's Gothic vibes where it's that sort of Edgar Allan Poe, Carmilla vibes, and then there's smacking you in the face with trying to be the more modern, what people think is Gothic, but in actuality it's not. Like, I love me some Addams Family, but there's a way of going too far in that direction.
Addams Family is the campy Gothic. And there's multiple types of Gothic too. Like, Lovecraft is considered Gothic, but it's not the same as like the old brick and mortar Gothic of Dracula or Carmilla. I'm still gathering sources. I'm literally putting research into this video essay. Something my girlfriend told me when I was doing a little personal survey about what somebody thinks makes something Gothic. Her words were quoting another person saying, "I know it when I see it." we got off on a tangent again. We're supposed to be wrapping this up.
I mean, to be fair, the tangent is fitting for the book.
True, it is. I love Gothic stories. Oh yeah, we were talking about the horror term. Like, they weren't using Gothic to describe horror, because not all horror was Gothic in early films. And the term just kind of came from reviews and people trying to coin a term for this genre that didn't really exist yet. A lot of Gothic stuff would end up in film anyways, and now we have this differentiation between horror and Gothic horror, partially because there was just something different about this new horror. And then slasher, bloody, gory horror came out in the 80s, and slasher, like, with the combination of Stephen King, and what's the other one? What is the other one? It's a movie, and I should know it. I'm a film major. I'll remember it someday. I'm not a horror person unless it's Gothic.
Yeah, I mean, Gothic is definitely a vibe.
Oh yeah. It's 50% vibes based.
Yeah, but there's a vast, I mean, even when you look into, like, Gothic fashion, there's a huge variety.
One of my famous things from my research is people trying to figure out if dark fantasy is just Gothic fantasy or not.
Yeah.
I am fan, Labyrinth is in fact Gothic.
Oh, hell yeah.
It has all of the correct themes. There's a book I'm trying to get for this research called Gothic in America, and it's just talking about media and how different forms of media are Gothic in different ways. One of the primary arguments, I used this for a essay last year. One of the primary arguments was that video games are inherently Gothic in all forms, so we'll get to that. Going back to why I gave it the rating I gave it, I think ultimately it didn't touch my soul, and the ending had a few wants that made me feeling a little unsatisfied, but for the most part, it was a solid story, and I'm very happy with what I consumed. I would recommend it to people.
That makes sense. But maybe a little bit of the unsatisfyingness is on purpose, though.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, a perfectly satisfying ending isn't always a good one. There were parts of it that I still desired in that ending. Like, what happened to Heather?
Just put out a tweet, please.
Mm-hmm.
Just a tweet.
Put out a tweet.
What happened to Heather,
what
please?
Happened to Heather? Goldy.
That's all we want to know.
Goldy, I beg you. Goldy. But yeah, that is Of Earthly Delights by Goldy Moldavsky.
All right, tune in next episode where we will be reviewing And They Were